Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Unresolved Textual Tension. And once again, I have returned to host an episode. It's me, your host, Maria. And today with me are my fabulous, my ruggedly handsome, nope, that's not it either.
One of whom is ruggedly
bitches.
Yes.
My handsome bitches, one of whom is ruggedly handsome, co-hosts William and Katie.
Yes, and I'm just, I guess, I need an extra moniker if Will has an extra moniker during our threesome.
I don't
Well,
really
you have to come up with
a-
one that's as accurate
The
as
leafy
mine
and
is to me.
moldy. How about the leafy and moldy?
Okay,
Because I never
so the
move.
book we're doing today is Buried Deep by Naomi Novik. Now, as if you're a frequent viewer of this channel, which is... if you're a frequent viewer of the channel, which is the only way you're watching this video, you'll know that we are Naomi Novik simps. This, I think, completes me and Maria's entire read-through of her bibliography, and this is like the fourth, I think, of Katie's books of hers.
Yes, I mentioned before, I had read the Scholomance one. I've read...
Scholomance one.
Yeah, I mean, it is a school... Am I wrong?
Scholomance.
Yeah, but it's just funny to call it Scholomance.
Yeah, it's a school romance. That's all. I mean, I saw Scholomance and I mistake it, but it still works. Scholomance. The Scholomance. I've read the Temeraire series and I've read Spinning Silver.
The first of both of those.
Correct.
Yeah.
First Scholomance, first Temeraire.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
and then
this
me
is
and
going
Maria-
to be my.
Didn't you read
my
Uprooted?
No.
Oh.
So this will be and then me and Maria, if you guys want to look, we did Uprooted, we did all of the Temeraire series. Those were very good videos, but never anyone watched anyway.
Nobody watched.
And we also did Spinning Silver actually as our first video.
This is we're kind of coming up to the start, like August
How many years?
of 2022.
3?
Yeah.
4?
So it'll be year
August?
4.
August. So I guess August of 2021 was it then, or was it 2022? When was it? Anyway.
You're asking English majors to do math.
Yeah, but anyway, we would have been starting to talk about it. Like at this point, 4 years ago, we were beginning and deciding what book we were going to read and deciding on Spinning Silver, which we ended up publishing at the beginning of September, I think it was.
I'm not linking it because I look terrible in it, and that's back when we thought we were doing a audio podcast primarily.
Okay. We're going to tell William, everybody in unison.
Great.
No, everybody in unison is going to tell William to shut up.
You should go watch it. I look good in that video.
Okay, Maria. We all know you look great in that video. Good for you. I thought, because Will told me it was going to be a podcast only. And so I showed up looking like a ragamuffin, and I'm leaning my head on my my knee. I'm sleepy. I'm starting to fall asleep because it's late at night.
I'm just like, hey guys.
So now you know the only one who understood the true success and how this podcast would go was me the whole
That's
time.
Incorrect. That's incorrect. Maria just always shows up extra.
I can't stare at myself looking lifeless in a camera the whole time. Like if I don't look at myself and think you look decent, it's not going to go well. So like,
see, that just never happens for me. Period. So it's fine. It's the MO.
Okay. So So actually,
enough
this
of
is
the mental
almost
illness issues.
We just got to keep moving forward. And that's actually funny because one of the short stories in this is a short story collection of Naomi Novik's work.
Also known as an anthology.
Well, it's primarily short stories she published in other things that she's then collecting here. Which I think is kind of important to
keep in mind.
Also books. Keep in mind in terms of like
Completion.
the reading experience of this and your expectations, because that kind of shifted it for me like halfway through. But it actually does have a short story version of Spinning Silver, so this is kind of like a cool 4-year closing of the Ouroboros.
Is. That's how I felt about it as I was reading it. I really felt like it was a nice.
It makes me very pleased. I'm assuming we would have stumbled and done this at some point regardless, but it makes me very pleased that I purchased the book and was like, William, I want to do this. Is that why you picked it, or was it just like you?
I didn't know it existed. Yeah, that's why I picked it.
Oh, that makes me very happy. So I bought the book because I was like, oh my God. Absolutely. And I'm so pleased.
I've actually thought about us redoing Spinning Silver for one of Maria's birthdays as like a surprise birthday.
No, we should do that, actually.
But the thing is, I'm just going to complain about it.
You are just going to complain about it.
Like,
I would not complain.
Maybe I'll have
Maria
you guys do it with Val and
Yeah.
Lindbergh, and so
That
you
would
guys
be
can
so
have new.
Fun. Oh,
We
I
should
feel
do
like
that.
they would appreciate this.
Yes,
When
let's
is your
do
birthday?
that because as I was listening to the
It's a
short
month
story
after.
retelling, as I was listening to the short story retelling, all I could think was, my God, what a competent writer. Jesus, I cannot stand how...
It's incredible. Spinning Silver remains one of my most favorite books. I love Uprooted. I think Uprooted is overall the more
Still haven't read
competent
it.
book. But oh my God, Spinning Silver has such a place. And I tried to get my mom to read Spinning Silver, and even she was like, it was kind of boring. I didn't really.
I
Yeah.
like the short story version better.
I
don't.
hate you heretic.
I don't.
There's no step-ons.
No. The short story foregoes the extra perspective, so you don't get the interesting and also degrading parts of that. But that being said, the short story is like, in a way, wish fulfillment in a strange way. Like, would you agree?
It felt the solving of the problem in the short story feels too easy.
That's what I mean, wish fulfillment.
Well, all these stories have the problem that
Yes.
you don't know exactly when they're going to end because they could end at any point in the middle, and that's just how she chooses endings for her short stories. Is
Look.
she gets to the middle of them and then is like, "Oh, that's the last line. It's a little bit meaningful," and you're like,
I like that, though.
Spinning
that's-
Silver at least had like an arc that worked
Yes,
pretty good.
I will say.
I did want to highlight Chris M's. The short story makes me want to read the whole novel. Good. Get ready. Maybe that'll happen
maybe we'll
again.
do a Patreon for my birthday.
Oh,
We'll do
yeah.
a Patreon live stream.
But people can only be positive.
No, they're allowed to have critiques.
It's your
if
birthday.
If I handled it once, I'll handle it a fucking again. The two of you, if you go back and you rewatch the video, the two of you were mad steak face.
I was, but
You know
mad.
but
what's so
also
funny-
I would like to say, to be honest with you, I don't think I was in a mode at that time where
To
I could
appreciate the
appreciate
excellence?
narration for the extravagance that Novik is able to accomplish with her narration.
I think it's also something where like we hadn't read so many bad books first, and so like we were kind of like going into, or at least I
That's
was
like
like,
Will last time we recorded together. Whatever it was, I don't even remember what we read together. And I was like, oh, no, it's so much better than all the shit we've read. You just published it,
What
whatever
was
it
it?
was.
"Oh, The River Has Roots."
Yeah. And I was like, are you kidding? All the shit. No. It wasn't that. It was something else.
You
I was
got
like,
a little brain broken by The Serpent and the Wings of Night. The other thing about Spinning Silver that's very funny is that I will defend it to the death even when I have problems with it. When I hear other people go, well, it was a little bit boring, I'm like, you shut your whore face.
Yeah.
That book is, you do not argue with that
wait.
book. And so it's very funny.
we got to
It is.
refocus. Let's get started.
Oh, hold on, really
Okay.
quickly, some comments. Ms. Ali Snow says Maria understood the assignment about dressing up the first
That's
time.
just Maria
Chris
in
M
general.
said, I actually rewatched the Spinning Silver video one to compare the storyline with the short story in this collection and discovered that it was your first video. Yeah, and what's funny is my analysis back then is just as good as it is now.
I was, I just like you might have noticed in our some of our most recent things, my drinking problem back then was rough. And so all the time I was like, oh yeah, like, blah, 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 blah.
I should go back and rewatch it, and I just can't because it's too painful. Also, before we get started on talking about this short story, we have a Patreon. And I mentioned that because one of the tiers has a critique live stream that is now open to all the book club members. So it's like we're going to have even more people. But me and Katie are going to be comparing the novel version of Spinning Silver to the short story version line by line, because I'm interested to see what changed, what
Me
didn't,
too.
what her
I'm
thinking
so
might have
curious.
been, what it wouldn't. And I think that will just be a lot of fun. Very rarely do you get to see accomplished authors have their first draft, and this isn't a first draft, she published it as a short story, so I'm sure, but like an earlier version with a later version, and what
Yeah.
decisions did she make, and that's actually really helpful to have. So that we're
Absolutely.
going to be doing that tomorrow, and that's part of our critique. No, it's not. It's part of our book club member tier.
And if anybody is wondering, well, what are your qualifications for being able? No, I say that in that voice because I'm quoting somebody else. I'm sorry. That's just like my teacher mode. If you're asking, what are our qualifications for being able to evaluate writing? William, what are some accomplishments you've made?
I started a podcast that has tens of viewers. I'm smarter than everyone else.
Okay, what William really means to say is that he is a very, very, very accomplished reader. He is a massive consumer of literature. And
He's
so
an
being a
excellent
reader,
writer.
being a consumer, and being somebody who started a podcast that does have people, quite a number of people, that also like the feedback, he is, and also not to mention a writer in his own right, he is somebody that, like can process literature. And me as a teacher of 10 years, tutor/teacher, teacher of only 2 years, tutor of 10 years, and as somebody who also has their bachelor's just like Will and Maria, Maria with her master's in literature, I'm saying this is because we've been questioned on it quite a bit lately. We still have the qualifications of being able to evaluate literature. So please follow along with us and have your own fun and your own opinions and share them.
And join the Patreon.
Yeah, join the Patreon. That was that's our second tier. We have a $2 tier for people who just want to check out our Discord. Cool, fun part. Full of cool, sexy people, excuse me. And then the second tier gets you the Discord access, but it's also going to get you a monthly Q&A that's going to be exclusive to that to the Patreon. There's also KFC, which is Katie's little writing corner, specifically Katie's fiction corner. Above that, then we have the book club that we just talked about. That's how this book was a mid-month book. I picked it so that everybody reads it, but the end of the month books, everyone votes on. And then above that, we have the Parasocial Darlings tier if you want your name in the credits. And then we have the Parasocial Legends tier, where you get an explicit call out in verbal call out in the. I'm vamping because I'm trying to find the names right now.
These are new. And we're still working on the verbiage.
No, what happens is I'm trying to search for their names at the same time.
Here, you search for their names, but real quick, just to note, Will, I just want to clarify, Will made it more accessible for more people to access more stuff, which is because at the end of the day, we're more passionate about the literature and about people engaging with the literature than we are about, like, I don't know.
And our Patreon supports us in the, like, we love our YouTube followers, and it's so fun getting the comments all the time. But our Patreon, and so we want to give more people the ability to join, more people the ability to do some of the fun, really cool things we do. I'd like to think, having seen I'm part of a couple of Patreons for other creators, seeing what their tiers are, we offer some pretty good perks. Like it ain't just your money's going nowhere. I would say the only one that is just people that really love us and have some money they'd like to spend on us is the Legends.
That's like, you want to be a real like patron of the arts, like you're the rich countess that's count, and you're like, I can throw you an extra 10 or 15 bucks a month or whatever, and it's like, I like you guys, throw it. That's what that's for. Anyway, Will, who is that group?
We have Pi, a very cool dude. He talks a lot in the book club channels. Very smart. I like him a lot. We have Stephen Allworth, which apparently I was mispronouncing last time, and I'm still mispronouncing this time. Don't worry, I'll get it right at some point.
Eventually.
And then also Jennifer, who has been here forever.
Oh my God,
she's
Jennifer's
really cool.
been here a hot second.
Yeah, she's one of the old timers. And so, all right, back to the book. Okay. So we've kind of stated overall our feelings. Just very quickly, we'll go over them again. I think Katie really loved this book. I think it's okay, but I think my expectation going in was for something a little more substantial. This is more if you're like a bit of a completist. I feel like Novik has two modes of writing, one of which is atmospheric and character driven, and the other is kind of funny. And her kind of funny ones are kind of funny, but I didn't find them substantial enough to really be interesting. And her longer pieces that were more atmospheric, I did. And there's like 2 or 3 of those that I really enjoyed. And the rest of them, I was like, this is fine. I enjoyed listening to it in a way I don't a lot of the books. Like, I was like, oh, cool, I get to listen again. But like, I didn't find a lot of these particularly substantial.
And what about Maria?
I think I am leaning a bit more towards Will, but I understand a lot of Katie's love for it. So Naomi Novik is one of my favorite authors. We cannot deny that. And so I think she's incredibly talented, and her writing in here is really good. There's a few that I was like, meh about. Quite a few I enjoyed. Actually, no, I would say the ones I really enjoyed were a small number. There's a middle chunk that I was like, that was nice background to listen to.
Yes.
And then there was a couple that I was like, I've forgotten them already. Like, I literally this morning had to flip through the physical book to read the endings of a couple of them because I was like, I don't even remember how it ended. Like, what was, and then I realized the reason I don't remember how it ended because it ended in the middle of a conversation and I never got the answer to what the fuck was causing all the people to die. What was in the clay? Did she spit it out? What was it the passion? I don't understand.
It's really funny that you mentioned that.
So funny.
Some of these hit me. May I transition?
You may.
Okay. Number one, this, as I told both Will and Maria before we got on, so they understood my standpoint, this kicked me in the ass as a writer. It reminded me why I wanted to write. It's funny. It's because I read a couple of these, such as the one Maria speaking of, 7, and I was like, this really makes me think of a fan fiction for a side-scrolling game I once watched. And it has the essence of like a game where there's like some world building, but there's not character like, exploration or whatever. And it hit me that, are these some of her fan fictions for some things that she's read? And I had forgotten that she was a founder of Archive of Our Own AO3, someplace where I only exclusively existed for a very, very long time in my life. And like when I say that, I mean no friends, no family, nothing, just AO3. And that's where I existed.
I was there.
Would you agree?
I mean, yeah, but you still engaged with your friends. But as far as entertainment,
not as
it's
much.
The only way you...
Let's just say that I canceled in college on a lot of people just to read AO3 stories. The point is that as I read that story as well as several other stories in here, I was like, this really hits me like a fan fiction. And I'm like, I almost feel like I've read her material before. I'm like, oh my God. Like, obviously I have the books, but these are different. The tone is different. And as I was reading it, I was like, God, this is really making me feel like I've read her pieces online someplace. And then I read the biography and I was like, oh, she's the founder of AO3. I forgot about that. I was like, have I read it? I don't think so, but I think she influenced so many people to write in that style that I must have read somebody that must have been influenced at some degree by her, because it sounds exactly the same. And 7's one of them. And so the unfinished endings didn't surprise me because the forward, she specifically says at one point, she says, some of these are unfinished. They just end in the middle. It's because these are just ideas. These are just things that I wanted to throw out there. And here they are. And I actually did that during KFC last time for my own work. It's the first time I ever shared my own work on KFC after like a year or two. And I shared it and it was just throwing out random pieces. And I was like, guys, which one's better? Why do you like it? What's different about it? And so when I went into this, I was like, oh, so it's going to end randomly. And so it didn't really surprise me, so I wasn't upset. But that doesn't mean they are not complete short stories. That's for sure in some places. But I cannot help but find it fascinating how each narrative style differs from one another. And I'm just like, oh my God, she is such an accomplished writer. So that's my feeling.
Yeah. And she's talented. A lot of these that, I might not have enjoyed from a structural or like the overall arc, I enjoyed listening to. There is a pleasure in just being in her narration. The only one I will say I did not have that for, the first one. I could not get into Araminta. I did not give a shit about that pirate ass bitch. Araminta. Yeah, that pirate ass bitch.
I would agree. That is by far the weakest story. But you know what's funny, guys? Is I've read 2 mangas that have the same exact vibe and have not similar plot structures, not at all. But they're like the mangas like were not well written. Whoever the writer was, no offense to them. Not that I'm gonna quote what they are because I don't remember anymore. Pretty sure one was called Fool's Gold, but whatever. But I read the mangas and they were so shit. But I loved the character structures. And so I love the character structures in that book, especially the captain, like the weird, like very flamboyant Captain Hook. But yeah, I would have to say that is by far, because I will admit I did not have time to read the last story, so Will and Maria will provide the bulk of that content. But that story was the weakest out of all of them by far.
I did not like it.
As the first one, we'll go ahead and start and just describe it.
Yeah, let's do it.
It is basically, this is like
a
old
swashbuckler.
Brittany. It's a swashbuckler type of thing, but there's like magic in the world. You're not supposed to take the whole thing very seriously. It's supposed to be like a little funny. And there's a chick who like doesn't love being a upper class chick, and she gets sent to get married on the open seas. But they get stuck by a pirate. They get not stuck. They get captured.
Yes,
by a pirate.
May I interrupt real quick? Aramente is our main character, and the thing with her, and with some of the ones we probably like a little less, maybe we'll provide a little less detail because there's less to analyze. Well, maybe not, because you could point out what doesn't work.
I wasn't going to put a lot of detail into
on this one. But real quick, the whole thing is that, like I said, the world building in this one, can I just say, is a little rushed. In obviously just short story, but it's not well integrated into the short story format, and it feels very front loading, where there's like a lot bogged down, and so it doesn't as well. For example, there's a lot of world building in the spinning silver alternative later on, but that one caresses the story and the characters.
And it felt integral to what was being told.
Yes.
Every piece you got felt integral. And
whereas this one, a little less so, and also just rushed. I think that's what the problem is. I think it's...
And it wasn't rich. The thing with spinning silver is that is an incredible... Immediately, you're dropped into a rich world. We're getting descriptions of food. We're getting descriptions of clothing. We're getting... It makes it feel rich and real. This one was like, just rushed. It was like, here are words. We're throwing them at you. Take them.
Real quick, Quill with no ink and Miss Sally Snow. First, Miss Sally Snow said, weird choice to put such a weak story first. I don't think so, because I think she wanted to put her weakest first. If she had a choice,
don't include it.
No, absolutely no. She obviously valued it in some way, in her own way, whatever it was.
Okay, two things. One, I think this is, again, an expectation thing. This is for the Novik completist. It's not necessarily...
Yes, correct.
These kinds of anthologies in general are
thank
like...
you, Will.
In a different industry, it would make more sense for her to put this on her website, but I'm assuming you can't do that for whatever reason. But, and the other thing is, I will say, I'll defend it slightly in that this is in a mode of not world building being serious in the way that some of her other ones are.
No, it's an exploration of gender.
I don't even think of that.
I don't even think of it that way.
I don't even think it was that. I think it was literally just like she wrote for a while and then decided to stop.
Oh no, for sure. But I really feel
think it's anything.
I feel like if she let me elaborate on that. I feel like if she had decided to attempt to make this larger in some way, it would be an exploration of gender expectations, and exploration of sexuality. Because guys, so Aramente is she's kind of like the tomboy of her family. Her father taught her to hunt and do a couple of more manly activities, so she is quite impressive and knowledgeable and educated, as opposed to some of the more womanly duties that her sisters have been entailed to. And so when she goes on her trip on the ship to go, and she has her dowry on the ship with her, she's also given a necklace by her parents that is a gemstone of some sort. And like Maria and Will both said, I think world building there, magic there. Is it integral / was it told in a way that made it feel integral / well integrated? Absolutely not. And when you get to the part where she, which I did like, but I felt like it also missed an opportunity in some ways for shock value. But like, is this okay that I'm going on with this, guys, by the way? I just wanted to get going through the story.
We need to say the thing so I can bring up one of my biggest complaints about this.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Basically,
okay.
This is just like they get attacked by pirates. She has a thing that turns her into a man. She does that to survive, then becomes a pirate. The pirate's gay. And then the story, they go to Atlantis and then the story ends.
Can we just mention though, so because this was shock value to me when it happened. I was listening to it before I started reading it in the book because I was in the car. And when it happened, I felt like I was slapped in the face with a fish. A la Amanda Bynes from whatever the show was on Nickelodeon. Nobody ever knows what I'm referencing.
The Amanda Show.
Yeah. Oh, is it called the Amanda? Okay, the Amanda Show.
Amanda Show. Or All That. She was on both.
All That. All that. That's what it was. I thought it was that, but I thought I was wrong. But like, anyway, long story short, she slaps people with fish. The point is that's exactly the gif that I imagine with this story when this happens. Just real quick, and then you guys can go over the rest. There's a scene where she knows what the gemstone does. It turns her into a man, a young man, because she's a young woman. And she puts it on, so she's a young man. And she's like, yeah, no, this is for my dowry, for my chick, blah, 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 whatever. And so she goes into the captain's quarters because she is the hostage in this situation. And the captain is like a mega Captain Hook / Fool's Gold, if you read that manga, vibe, which is like, I'm a swashbuckler and I'm here to murder, have sex, and be sexy. And that's the vibe, except for he has, like, instead of blonde hair in the manga, he's got, like, dark, thick locks and a mustachio and all this stuff. So very Captain Hook. And they're in the captain's quarters and they have a lovely meal. And then she's like, you want to do it in the butt? And I'm just like, so forward, because 5 seconds ago she was like, I must worry about the sanctity of my virginity, and she's like my parents, even if they know that I was in male form and I was in this office and they knew about it, it will still be sullied. And then she's like, actually, out of nowhere, she's just like, actually, you know what, if it's sullied, that means I have more freedom, so I'm gonna do it in the butt immediately. No sex ever.
And the thing is, it's already too late. You've obviously missed one of my least favorite aspects of this story, Katie.
What? Which part?
So, she'd already had sex.
Oh, I didn't even remember that part.
She fucked her maids. And they were pregnant!
Yeah, that was weird.
Oh my god,
and you know what the worst part is? She is a woman. She understands what being pregnant out of wedlock would do to someone. Why are you fucking around with women's virginities? Those are maids. You have ruined them.
How did I miss that?
Yeah, it's the pregnancy part. The way it says that was the maid. So after the ship gets taken, so she's on the ship going to marry the guy she doesn't want to marry in the colonies. Then the pirates come, and everybody's like, oh, Araminta was taken as a hostage, and oh, so sad. But her maids and everything were left on the original ship.
Yeah.
And they go to town, and her family has to take care of them because they are increasing. That's it. That's all you get. But we know what that means.
See,
increasing is
I can see how I missed that because I must have been driving in traffic or something. See, that's why I don't love audiobooks in the car. But that being said, I completely missed that detail. That's really fucked up.
It's really fucked up because there's literally later points where she was like, she understood the importance and how much it would fuck her if she lost her virginity or was even discovered alone in a room with an unmarried man. Because she even asked him at one point,
she had sex with the women?
Yes.
And they're pregnant? Wait. Why not use protection if they know all about this? Just be like, eat the herb or use the thing. Like,
I think you guys are maybe, and I don't know how I'm saying these words in this order, are taking this a little too seriously because I don't think it's even supposed to make that much sense. This is like wacky world building.
It is.
And the thing is, like, that's one of the reasons it's actually kind of weak is because she's not that funny. She's like, and it's not like she's unfunny, but she's funny when she's contrasting serious and unserious.
You know who could have written this in a way that it would have worked? Terry Pratchett.
Yes.
Oh.
Terry Pratchett could have written this story in a way that worked. Oh my God. Unfortunately,
can we appreciate Quill with no ink's comment? Dumbass pirate bitch.
Pirate bitch indeed. Listen, I have no fucking patience. And also, I hate, like, Araminta just feels like, and I hate to say this because it's such a thing. She just feels like such a not like other girls, like. You know, like
she like, is, but she's not like other guys either, except for she is, and she's impregnating women randomly, not caring whether or not. Also, she's definitely like so that's why I said an exploration of sexuality. It's because she's obviously not just straight.
Yes.
Yeah,
very understood.
Maria.
Yeah.
Yeah, Katie. Yeah, don't tell.
I think
I'm shocked.
I think there could be something kind of interesting in the idea of like
there could be
them having. Well, you didn't hear what I was about to say. Them having like this ability to swap like gender and pretty easily through magic, but still being very rigid in like how that works. It wouldn't necessarily make sense from a world building perspective, but it could be like an interesting metaphor for, the ways that society makes you fit into a role, even though you don't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
I just don't think the story does that.
And also,
So basically, I was right. I do agree with Will, by the way.
Will, you need to give me I can't click
just
the comments.
log in.
Oh God,
You're
it's too
probably
late.
not
Which
logged in.
comment do you
Someone
want?
click at 10:40. Miss Allie Snow made a comment. Somebody click that for me.
I will. I'm getting there.
Click it.
10:40?
If they have magic
Yes,
swapping
yeah.
gender,
If
why
they
do you have
have
parents
gender
letters they don't
swapping-
get? That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Wait, what did it say? Why didn't
they have-
her
If
they have
parents
gender
just
swapping
let her stay
merit-
at home and be a dude? Exactly.
Her dad wanted a son. They had a daughter that they didn't know what to do with and they had the ability to make her a son. Like, I don't understand what the problem is here. Anyway, it's a weird story. It ends abruptly, and basically the moral of the story is, and then the goddess, because she was a woman.
Wait. Pause real quick. It's a la Treasure Island. They get stuck on an island, and there's a temple, and only women are allowed to enter the temple. And then a la what Maria was saying.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And because she's a woman, the goddess is like, what do you want? And she's like, I want to be free. I want to be my own captain of my own life.
I want to fuck all the bitches, and I want to fuck all the men, which are also bitches.
And
so I want to
the
fuck all the
goddess-
bitches.
Yeah, the goddess is like, you got it, babe. I'll give you the ship, but now it'll be Pearl, and you can go be captain. And that's it. That's the story. Why did I read that? When I tell you, I started this, and I was like, Novik, we got beef. How the fuck you hit me with that?
I'm not going to lie.
Why did you hit me with that? Cold fish to the face, indeed.
Thank you. It was a fish to the face. When I did read it, I felt very uncomfortable. Specifically in the moment where she, like, if I had noticed the part of about the pregnancies, I definitely would have felt uncomfortable beforehand. But as soon as, not that I'm uncomfortable doing it in the butt, you will both know I'm there for that. The point is that it comes abruptly without character development, and it feels strange, and it feels not contrived, as in like, oh, we need a gay romance, therefore we are having a gay romance because I must shove it in there. That's not, no pun intended. But that being said, that's not the way it comes across. It just comes across as sudden and without preamble, and not in a good way. And so when I was reading it, I was kind of like, I wasn't expecting this from Novik. Like, it just felt strange, like a pebble in a shoe.
The other point I'm going to make is somebody in the comments made this. I can't click it, so I'm not going to find it. But I don't remember. But somebody said, this should have been in the middle, because you can hide a story like this in the middle, and then you just forget about it.
That's true.
Start with a banger, then hide this in the middle. Because it made me so angry when I read it. I was like, what the hell?
I was concerned about so it's actually funny that you're bringing me back to this moment in time where as I was listening to it, I was kind of like, what is the rest of this going to be like? And also, not to be rude, but the preface was kind of a little cheesy. And so, or at least it was delivered cheesily via the audiobook narrator. And
it was very whimsical author. And I was like, you're becoming an old woman, Novik.
Yeah, I was kind of like,
yeah, you've reached the cringe age.
William's right. It's kind of, I hate to say it, but it's kind of cringy. And so then with this right after it, I was like, huh. And I actually forgot it was so real quick, I forgot Very Deep was the title. And so when you said Very Deep, I forgot it was Naomi Novik. And so when I was listening to it, I was like, wait a second, this is Naomi Novik. And I was like, okay. And so I read, and then of course the story ended. And then we get the next one, which is called After Hours.
Oh no, After Hours, that's true. So After Hours is set in the Scholomance universe. It is a story that takes place after the end of the third book, so school's a little bit safer, and it is specifically about a witch from somewhere in Eastern Europe. I forgot where it was. I read this book very quick, and there's so many names and things, I'm not going to remember any of them. There's too many.
It's Eastern European, Russian.
Yes.
They call their witches babas.
Yes,
and
they do.
Baba Yaga.
And they can do curses in a way that is not, like, they have their own magic system that's different than the Scholomance.
Which I loved.
Yes.
Oh my God, did I love that. Because again, while I did not read all the books like everybody else here, I did read the first one. And so when it started, it felt like a completely different world. And I loved that. I was like, oh my God, we're getting world building for the world. That's really fun. And of course, you guys know, I love Eastern European / Northern European like magic systems. I mean, my one thing was all Russian based with Koshi the Deathless. And so like it was really cool to start with that. And I loved the main character whose name was, what was it again? I'm looking.
Something. And the thing about it is that this story is kind of
Beata,
interesting because like I felt like it was unnecessary, but it's saying at the same time, it's like it's short enough to be okay. If you've read the Scholomance, you kind of want to see what things are like. So you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. All the themes are the exact ones from the Scholomance, and they started to bother me here because they're a little bit more like...
I noticed that too.
They're like a little more shallow, and because it's a shorter work and you care, you're not as invested in the characters. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of glad this is ending now because otherwise I'm going to get annoyed.
It also just felt like a retread of what the first book did and what the middle book did with learning how to become friends with people who are different from you.
Correct.
And how to appreciate people and like understanding. And so it felt like this really weird retread. So again, I love the world. I like the world building, and I would have much rather focused. I'd like to, because, and Novik is a real gosh darn liar, because she says at the start of this one that she wanted to write the kind of story that was an adventure that Elle and Orion and all of them could only have dreamt of having at school. And I'm like, this is exactly the kind of normal adventure. Like,
correct.
Why didn't you have it be about something else? Like maybe they had a school
going
dance
out in the forest or whatever. Whatever. And like Chris M said, I do want to highlight this though. After Hours was one of the few that had a full arc from enemies to friends, which is correct. It is one of the few short stories that does have a complete arc. I would agree with that. But that being said, I agree with Maria and Will on that. It's a rehash of what happened before, but with a different flavoring to it, a different filter. So instead of you having the original culture expectations of the main characters, we have a different cultural expectation for this one. And if you really like Russian mythology and you really like Russian lore and stuff like that, that's redundant. But the point is you'll really like what was her name again? I already forgot. Beata. You'll really like Beata. It's because she's really fun as a character, and seeing her in maybe if I hadn't read the Scholomance, and I'm gonna keep calling it that, even if I hadn't read the Scholomance and I saw this, I still think it's not really fitting in with what would make me absolutely completely happy, mostly because it feels overly contained by the strictures of the pre-existing story that came before it. You really do. So if you've ever gone bowling and you have the kitty little thing, what are they called? The bumpers.
Guides?
They're called bumpers.
The bumpers when you go bowling.
Yeah, if you have the little kitty things that come up so it makes sure it doesn't go in the gutter, that's what the story felt like. I felt like there were bumpers that didn't allow us to explore beyond the basic of what was a pre-existing storyline, but rehashing it with different characters.
And it was just like a night in the Scholomance and things are dangerous. Like, that's not different. That's not different at all. Novik, why are you lying to me?
And it's the same themes. And the thing is, by virtue of being shorter, again, the themes of the Scholomance books are more annoying. So, surprise, rich people have problems too. Feels cheaper here than it did in the Scholomance, which was a more thorough understanding of the ways privilege can make you pay to be in it and stuff like that. Whereas here it's like, but the rich girl had a problem, and also the poor girl is super generous. And I'm like, I got contrarian about it. I was like, being poor does not make you kind necessarily. Whereas in the Scholomance, it's like, okay, this is more of the characters and the weft and heave of the world. It's not what it was.
And I really just would have liked a different kind of story, like
a different environment within the world, maybe.
Like maybe now that this stuff happens, people can have teachers,
or better yet, what about a professor's perspective or a teacher's perspective?
There are none.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
that would be the difference. Now a teacher accommodating to stuff. Question. So in general, what happens, I have a question, but just for context. In general, what happens is that we have our Beata. She has a roommate that's really wealthy from America, and she's kind of like, Mean Girls, Regina George vibe, if you know that reference. And they have an issue. It's because Beata's super poor, so she can't get all the resources she needs to do her school and be protected. And the other girl has an issue with her enema, which means like not enema, like
Anima.
the butt thing. Anima, her magic and stuff. And so she needs something. And so long story short, they go through a little mini adventure and they become friends. But the point is what was like when Orion, which is one of the main characters from the original series, when Orion comes and he's like, I should have known this wouldn't have worked out tonight or something. Was he on a date or something?
Yeah, he was. The implication I had was that he was going on a date with Elle.
Yeah.
And he was, because he, like, not to spoil because you really should read it at some point, but he now, like, is at the school all the time, and they have specific nights where he gets there.
He's the gatekeeper.
You know what I would have liked better as a story for this?
Him as a gatekeeper?
No, for the kids to be like, who the fuck is this random guy that sometimes, like he becomes a ghost story of this school.
That's the way he premises it. At the beginning, it's like, who's the gatekeeper? Nobody knows what it is. They thought it was a monster, but it's not a monster. It's a person.
I would have loved these kids who have not had to deal with danger, who have not had to deal with any of this.
Somebody that powerful?
No, for them to be like, we're going to go find the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
It's like, and then they find him and he's killing Mouse and they're like, oh, that's why there's no Mouse. This guy's a deal. And it's just Orion. And they're like, all of their expectations of what they thought the gatekeeper was is just shaggy-haired puppy O'Brien.
Yes,
Orion. And that would have been, because that would have genuinely been kids who don't have fear, who are going in, like, maybe it's 5 years after the thing that happens. And so everybody does feel a bit safer. You're not seeing as many. Orion is doing his Orion work.
So
and
it's
then
funny.
Just having, that would have been so funny. That would have been such a cute story.
Well, it's so funny that Maria... Oh, so go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's just so funny that Maria says that because, ironically enough, that's how Novik premises it. She preambles with this long harangue about, oh, there's a gatekeeper. Who's the gatekeeper? It's mysterious, blah, blah, blah.
Nobody knows what he does.
I had no idea it was Orion because I didn't read the other two books, so I had less context for it. And so I was just like, oh, it's somebody important from the main series. And so, like, she actually frameworks it at the beginning as if it were to be one of those stories. And it technically is one of those stories, except for she instead, I feel like, takes the weak way out and follows the original pattern of the school danger instead of exploring outside of it. But continue, Will.
No, I was going to say the same thing. It actually almost is structured the way Maria says, but not quite. And like, because it's not quite, you're like, oh, this is a little bit. It's like, it's fine if you're. It's cute. The thing is, and this is where we have to say it, outside of the pirate story, Novik is just an incredibly strong writer and a really great character writer. Her character work is really good. So like, some of these skate by just being like, she's really talented. Yeah, and so it's like, it's hard to, well, it's not hard to criticize. I'm good at that. But like, in a lot of ways, these are all just kind of very pleasant to read. And this is like, it's pleasant, but there could have been more here.
Yeah, and it's lacking. Okay, next, Vici. Vici is the Roman, it's basically for the Temeraire series. Because there's this thing in the Temeraire series that the Romans were the first ones to kind of harness dragons.
The dragons as militant power.
Yeah, and bond with them. And so she was like, it's...
Antony.
Marcus Antonio?
Yes, correct.
Marcus
anyway, and she basically, it's the story of the first guy who bonds a dragon, and it is one of the ones that feels the most woefully incomplete. It's and my biggest problem with it doesn't feel Roman. She's so good at writing an atmospheric story that places you in a time, place, and culture. This felt, and I don't know, I will say this might just be Simon Vance. Having Simon Vance reprise narrating for this thing might have been one of the biggest mistakes, because he does stuffy old British guy that you can believe is fighting
doesn't he?
Bonaparte, but you don't for a second believe is. You know who they should have had do this story? The guy who did Seven, who is also the guy who voiced The guy in Scorpio races.
Wait.
Yeah, I thought he
wait.
sounded familiar.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, and while you're having a moment to sneeze,
No.
The thing about it
I
is,
was trying to picture the voice, and I'm trying to think. I would have to re-listen to it to know for sure.
He's British, but he's got this like
more noble-esque. Yes.
That Roman. He sounds like he could do Roman military. Like there's just this.
It's not just that.
Guy did.
Well, it's not just that. It's also that you don't get the culture from the time too much because he's ostracized by society. So, because Antony is, he's like, yo, did these things. And they're like, yo, go kill a dragon. And he's like, that's death. And he's like, and they're like, yeah, no shit. Go do it. And so he goes to do it, but he doesn't get killed. Instead, he ends up with an egg. And the thing is from that, and from him being so rich from that process, because he gets the dragon's hoard and such, he becomes an ostracized rich man. And because of that, I think that you miss a lot of Roman society that you could have already been injected into it.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking the feel of the clothing, the food, the vibe, the way that dialogue was written.
Certainly feel Roman, at least.
There's so many ways that you can, because I'm once again thinking about it compared to the opening of Spinning Silver, which immediately couches you in a world. You feel the cold, you feel the terrible floorboards beneath your feet. You feel like it's got color and grit, and this just felt very superficial.
Correct.
And like
I would agree.
The exact writing style from the Temeraire series, which in that series works perfection, fantastically, applied it to this, to a character who's a bit sillier than our wonderful
a bit, a lot.
And unfortunately, Vance, who I love as a narrator, he did when we read the second.
Wait. It said who's Steve West? Henry Chong mentioned.
I think
that's the guy that I was talking about that should have narrated.
Okay.
Yes. But Simon Vance did the second book. He did a version of the second book. What was that series we read with Ian Will? Henry V. His wives.
Bring the Bodies Up was the second one. The first one was
Bring Up the Bodies.
Wolf Hall.
Yes. So he did the narration for Bring Up the Bodies, and it worked perfectly there because his voices and the different types of voices, and unfortunately his Temeraire voice is the same voice he used for Vici, and so it felt like a weird retread of a thing.
That's fair.
But
do
also,
you think
I just don't think she wrote it differently enough for it to work.
Even the structure of the prose is very much of the kind of crisp Temeraire. Again, it feels like, I told this to Maria, it feels like someone in the Temeraire universe telling you this story.
Yes.
And it's like,
I would agree with that. That very much felt the vibe of it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've been brain broken by this one history blog I follow that, like, it's a legit military historian who focuses on Roman history, and like he's written a bunch of articles on actual Romans, and the actual Romans are just weird in the way that the past is always a foreign country, and so like there's like no real Roman attitudes here where that actually would have been really interesting. There's no real examination of why in the West dragons become beasts of burden, whereas in the East they're like people, you know what I mean? Like there's no explanation of why Roman culture led to one way or the other, and like that's kind of an interesting thing I want to know.
And especially because Antony's relationship with Vici is very person. He doesn't look at Vici at all as a thing to do something. So so because Will, what a absolutely astute comment. One of the foundational things in the Temeraire series is how these different cultures view dragons. In Africa, they're seen as like ancient ancestors that carry on by you telling them tales in the egg, they come out saying that they are this person that has been dead for like 40 years kind of thing. And so they become they're part of this reincarnation religion that they have. And in China, they're very much like kind of seen as people in their own right, where they have jobs, they do things, they have their own places, they can be companions, but for the most part, they're kind of independent. Versus the West, Britain included, seeing them as a means to an end, part of a military.
The whole series is like a travel log of, hey, let me show you this new culture in between battles of how they treat dragons. And the thing is, the Romans, like, they had like the paterfamilias, the man who is the head of the household, who can order one of his children murdered legally. They wouldn't do it, but legally you could, because like they had that very top down. They also had a very strong culture of of tit for tat. I will take care of you, but you then owe me something. Like this mentorship kind of a thing. And that could have been really interesting to see how that works with dragons and how that eventually would shift into more of they're beasts once you get into later ages kind of a thing. And like, it's weird that she didn't take that opportunity to do something really cool. Yep. Instead, she just decided to do like fun romp.
Yeah, and it's an odd choice, and it also just felt short, and I much preferred, I'm going to be honest, the Pride and Prejudice.
Oh my God, by far. But we'll get to that. Don't get into it right now.
Partially just because the dragon felt like a different type of dragon than Temeraire.
Correct.
And had like a fun new personality. Like one of the best parts of the original book series was the different personalities the dragons had, and how they expressed their mineness and their wanting, like their hoard collectingness, and so that I thought was a really fun play. Where here it just felt a little bit lackluster. And again, I'm going to say one of the weaker written ones. It's not one of the ones where the prose stood out and I was like, wow, partially because it felt like a misfitting. Will's completely correct. It feels like a character from Temeraire telling this story. So it's that prose on top of this story with no clear details. And she's normally really good at that. Okay. I'm going to move us on to the next one.
Next one is called Buried Deep, and it is one of my two favorite of all of them.
I loved this one so much. I loved it so much.
The narration in this, everybody, we obviously, now is not the time to quote it. Maybe we can explore that at another time. But the narration and the prose in this piece is by far one of the most accomplished, beautiful, exciting, interesting, sensational prose piece, like focus on prose that I've ever read in my life. And Buried Deep is delicious as a story, and I think it comes full circle in a way that is deeper, no pun intended, yet again, than any other story in this anthology.
So, Will, do you want to go first and then I'll?
No, you go ahead and go first.
Okay. So there's a little bit that I want more out of the end of this story. Not that I need it to go past the point that it does end. I'm okay with the moment that it ends because I like because this isn't necessarily the story of the Minotaur. It is the story of Ariadne. And so because of that, I liked where it ended. I just wish the moment, because there's a realization she has towards the end, which is that she has been complicit in a thing that has been done to Minotaur the whole time. And I wish we would have had seeds of that much earlier to have the moment where it comes together work a little bit better. But outside of that, I freaking loved this. This was the one where it started and I was like, oh, we're fucking back.
Going.
Baby.
Yeah.
Partially because there's this weird chameleon thing that Novik does where she can start a story and it is completely different in vibe, narration.
Oh my God, that's what I want.
Uprooted is different than Spinning Silver. They're damn different than the Temeraire series. And they're also wildly oceans different from the Scholomance. She's a chameleon.
I think I mentioned this at the beginning when we first introed, and if I didn't, I'm going to go ahead and say it now. The thing that I shared with my husband why this was such a kick in the ass was because, I said this at the beginning, the different genre fiction narration styles for each one that she is able to accomplish is so vastly different. And accomplished. And I am flabbergasted at the ease with which it feels to read something so wholeheartedly complex. But go ahead. Wait, Will hasn't
What
had
was
a
that?
chance yet to share his
Okay,
feelings
go.
on this.
Okay, so I also was very impressed with her ability to change modes. I was a little less impressed by the time I got to the end of this book, where I was like, oh, okay, she has two kind of specific modes. But this does feel totally different than the stuff we'd read from her before. It's so atmospheric. The character work is so good. And the thing about it is that, you know, there's a bunch of retellings of Greek myths going around, started by that book that I hate, and we haven't read any of them except that book that I hate. And this is such a more, and so I'm only going to compare it to that one.
Masterful
but like this is
retelling.
such a more masterful retelling and exploration of the themes from the story and recontextualization. I really love some of the ways that the things here are recontextualized, and the way that belief comes into it. And I really enjoyed the story, but I'm with Maria because it's like she does that thing at the end where sometimes her characters talk to themselves too much about the reasons they're doing things. And this felt like that, where it felt like it could have been, like Maria said, more developed through actual scenes instead of the character having an epiphany at the end of the story.
The reason why I want to argue this, and now again, I'm not arguing that you're incorrect. I just felt differently. So maybe I shouldn't say the word argue. The one thing I do want to, I forget the term, but I want to counter that, I suppose, is that it works for me because of the environment she is in and the stress she is currently encountering. I have had, like, I just feel like it really vibed with me because I've had moments like that personally. I've had moments where I'm in a really stressful situation suddenly where it's not obviously I've only been in a life or death situation like once, but like in those situations that felt like my fight or flight instincts were being engaged with, the sudden realization of how I got myself in this situation has slapped me in the face. Wait. I just want to finish. I really liked how it came to her. And I felt the quickening of needing to end it. So the pace upticked, and it does feel rushed. I will agree with that. It feels rushed. But I do really like the way it occurs to her, and I do really like the way it ends up being. I think what could have improved upon it is simply giving herself, which I don't know why she just didn't simply do. Maybe she was like, oh, here's all my work. Anthology, take it as is. Or maybe she just edited what she simply had and didn't elaborate on it. But I think what a very simple move that could have just strengthened this ending is giving herself another 1,500 words to maybe even 3,000 words to explore, first of all, the golden hair. I forget what figure, Theseus, was it?
Or a Theseus.
We should say that this is a retelling of the Minotaur story through the perspective of the Minotaur's sister, and the Minotaur being like an egg muffin. That's not the term people use, but like a good boy who then gets stuck underground, and it's sympathy for the Minotaur.
Yes. I already had sympathy for the Minotaur before, mostly because of like the stuff. When I went to Greece and I studied antiquity,
Maria had other strong feelings about the Minotaur.
Like as in she wants to.
I know. Yes.
Oh, okay, got it.
It's been a while. I didn't know if people remembered.
Chris said cinnamon roll. That's what you're looking for, I guess.
Cinnamon.
Maybe. But the point is just to finish my point so that you guys can talk.
Yeah.
I really felt like she probably could have strengthened it by simply elongating some and exploring those scenes a little bit more. But I didn't care. I liked it, and I liked the ending, and I liked that power. Spoilers. So ignore the next 10 seconds that I say this. That power comes from within, and that power comes from belief. And I preferred that over the other. However, that being said, I also really liked the concept of her brother actually protecting her. So I'm a little, I liked the twist because it wasn't something I was expecting. And I really enjoyed that, especially the sudden realization that her brother was a pile of bones in a corner that obviously starved years and years ago. And I'm like, oh my God.
No, that is a myth that she can tell. Like she can't, that is one way to read the, so what that end part was saying. But so the point is because she talks to him and Theseus is going to
try to kill her brother. Yes.
Yeah, but free the Minotaur. So he's there. The point was that was the story that would serve her father the best. Is if she came out and said the bones are under there. This is the thing.
No, not serve her. It would serve her in the end. It's because, and she knew it would, and I thought it was the truth. I would disagree. I'd like to reread that. Well, I would disagree.
I mean, that's fine. I read it, couldn't understand. I listened to it, couldn't understand what I was saying, and then I went back and I read the physical.
I just read that part.
Yeah. And so, but that's how I took it. But anyway, my point is, I don't mind the moment it ends. I like, because this is not the story of the rescue of the Minotaur. Yes. This is the story of her coming to the point of realizing what she needs to do. So I was absolutely okay with the ending. And I'm okay with her realizing that she's been complicit in this thing in the moment she is. My point is, the narrative itself.
You don't like that she's talking to the audience.
No. Let me finish. When you read a book, sometimes there are things that you see that the character isn't seeing or isn't acknowledging, and the book itself should have had moments where you called into question, but because of scenes, why she wasn't doing the thing. Because you're right, there are moments as humans where we're like, I now see what put me in this position, and it's been here staring at me the whole time. But somebody else, like your friend or your partner, you might have been looking at you the whole time going, this is how this is going to end. This is how this is playing out. We can't see it because it's our story and we're in it. But a person over there might be able to look at it and be like, oh, this is because of this thing. And we as the reader should be the person going, oh, the whole time.
You know what's funny that you say that, though, because I don't know. I was doing that the whole time. I was like, why didn't she, when she came, like literally, I thought to myself, the whole point was that nobody was to know, and she was using the secret as leverage so that way she could have power. But once she had the power, she could have very easily just shared it. And so when it really, the turning point really becomes when she goes to her father, or actually even maybe perhaps before that, but no. Oh, yeah. Before that, when the priests come and they're like, oh, no, and then they give her power because she is the priestess of the god. That is the moment where I thought she's going to tell them that the brother, and she doesn't. And I was like, okay. And then it continues. And then when she goes to the emperor or whatever, king's palace, and then she does that and that happens, I thought she was going to say, my brother has spoken elsewise. And I thought that something like that was going to happen. And then it didn't. And I was like, where is the story going? Is she ever going to give her brother justice? Or is she going to end up getting eaten up or like some detrimental effect to her because she has allowed herself to be complicit in the lie? And so when that happened, I was like, fuck yeah, she realized it finally, and she didn't get eaten up. And so I was like really happy because I liked her as a character. Yeah. So alternatively, I thought that the whole time as the reader, and to have her, the character, realize that and to come to that emotional intelligence gratified me as her, the character.
I'm more with Maria on this. I kind of felt like the breadcrumbs aren't really there for it.
No, they're not.
Again, this is one of the few times where, and a lot of the short stories like end very suddenly. This is one of the times when it ends, but it has a conclusion. Like it ends before the plot of the main story, but it ends at the conclusion of her character arc. And so this is one of the few times I think it works. Whereas with others it doesn't. Because
we know what's going to happen.
Oh, I don't know the myth, so.
Well, no, she told us what's going to happen.
Theseus, you mean that thereafter?
Theseus is going to pretend he slayed the Minotaur, and her and Minotaur are going to run off together and be like...
See, that's not how I read the ending at all. Huh.
She literally said, if you help me free him, I will help you get out of this. And he goes, Roger Dodger, bro.
No, but I read that as a double on... Okay, wait, I'm going to... Let me reread it when I'm not, like, also distracted by a lot of stuff. But that being said, that's really not how I read the ending of the story. I'm curious if anybody else read it differently, or if I read it absolutely, completely wrong. Because I like my version better.
That he's a pile of bones?
Yes, absolutely. That he's a pile of bones, that she made the magic happen, that it's her and her love for her brother that did it. That's what I thought the meaning of the story was.
I think you can read it multiple ways. I don't think it's...
Yeah, I don't remember the sequence of events super well.
I'd have to review it again, but either way, the point is, this is one of the best stories in
by
here.
Far.
Now, I will say some of our patrons some of our patrons still didn't enjoy the ending. It, for them, felt like it was ending in the middle of the action. I think, and Quill with No Ink says that they read it the same way Katie did. Miss Allie Snow said she read it the way I did.
Fascinating. We have to look at this at some point.
Honestly, it might be worth looking at it in a critique stream, guys.
I think it's more unclear than ambiguous. I feel like if it was ambiguous, if it was supposed to be ambiguous, it would have been set up as more ambiguous. Yeah, like I think this is more of a...
until I read it one more time. I will not feel comfortable agreeing with you until I read it one more time when I don't feel like I'm freaking out about getting it done.
No, that's fine. But yeah, it's a great story. It is beautifully written. Read it. It just, some of the images in it are just really beautiful.
One in particular that hit me is there's this one description, and if you guys go read it, keep in mind if you've already read it, maybe you remember, but one description in particular that really hit me like, God, she's so good at not purple prosing the description and yet making such an impact, is there's this one description, do you guys remember, of the mountain as she's in the field, and there's the light is crusting over the top, and the beauty of the light, it really hit me as being, in particular, an incredible description.
Yeah, I mean, I found, I don't remember that one specifically, but there was a lot. For me, it's more these specific scenes she crafts.
Yeah, like the dew moments on the, yeah.
And these moments of, like, impact where something is happening, and there's a couple of just really magical sequences that work really well. Read it. Next one is Spinning Silver. This one is the short story. So I didn't know this, but Spinning Silver was originally this short story, and then she... looked at it and went, and went, there are other stories here I want to tell. For instance, our character Wanda is here.
Wanda.
And then we have Irina, the Duke's daughter, and how that's going to expand. And in some ways, it is also one of the most complete of the stories, partially because the scope is small. One of the big problems Novik has, and this is one of my things, I'm going to get up on my short story pedestal, a lot of Novik's short stories require a lot of, and then time passed, and now this was happening.
Correct. Or absolutely. 3 years passed. It's been 3 years.
And stuff being told in summary, like, you know, the journey was okay, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and then suddenly you're dropped in a scene. And if your short story requires a lot of things being told in summary, rather it being told in scene, it's you're struggling a little bit.
I would disagree, but only because it's a stylistic choice. I don't disagree I agree with you for sure, depending on the author and how successfully it's told. But sometimes, like, for example, like fairy tales even, and folk tales, sometimes they're told in a long period of time. For example, like Bluebeard, for example. So some stories really work out very well when there's a long period of time, depending on how it's told. But that does not ingratiate you very well to the characters or to the details, to the point where, like, they become icons of themselves, just like in a folk tale or fairy tale, and it's less of a story and more of a folk tale or fairy tale.
And even to use Bluebeard as an example, Bluebeard starts with that summary narration, but then it focuses on Bluebeard is the scene.
Yeah.
This particular wife in this house on the day her husband is gone and she goes into the thing. It's an excellent scene. And the scope is, it shows you this larger thing, and then it settles in. I'm okay if you start big, and then you show me this one specific thing you're going to tell me.
Yeah, but if you keep going up, down, it kind of feels like a sugar high and then a sugar low, right?
And unfortunately, and it's just a scope problem. With a short story, you need to be able to tell the whole story comfortably in the short story format. And a lot of writers, and I am hugely guilty of this, try shove a novel story into a short story format without doing the work to say, okay, if I have to write a short story, what part of this larger story can I tell that has a specific arc that I can just tell this scene, this collection of days, or this particular thing? And the Spinning Silver one, and it works exactly like a fairy tale. We get what background information. We get the myth, we get her family's history, and then we get her becoming the moneylender. And then we get the specific conflict of the story, which is
yes.
And it works excellently because it has a specific scope. It is telling you a specific story. It has these three things.
Everything has a purpose.
It does. And so as a short story, it does work really well. And so for that reason, I will give Will
myself for 5 seconds. Continue.
Yeah, I will give Will like a modicum of allowance for the fact that he likes this version better than the novel. But I find the way the scope expands in the novel so satisfying that I like them both as separate things from each other, kind of. But the entire time I was reading this, I just wanted to read the novel. Like it just is what it is.
I think a bunch of things. So one, that really does seem to be how Novik writes short stories is, oh, I have an idea, let me write it out. Oh, this is a bigger idea to be a novel, let me stop right here. And so that's why a lot of her stories feel incomplete, is because they're her starting off to be, she mentions in her last story that that's how she writes her worlds, is it starts with a story and then it grows into a world. And Spinning Silver and Buried Deep are the ones that like have the clearest like beginning and ending scope. I found that it's interesting because a lot of the language and a lot of the writing is taken or was put directly into the novel version, like word for word. It's really similar. Again, that's one of the reasons I think it would be interesting to compare the two, though maybe we'll do that for Maria's birthday. That might be cool too. But what I found is that this is like such a perfect acorn of a story. But then she planted it and the tree went all over the place. So like, for example, you guys should see the pieces Maria's making, audio listeners.
I hate him. I hate him. I gave him grace earlier. I gave him a modicum of respect. I take it back. You fucking suck.
The thing about it is that she went in really interesting directions, but a lot of them are very much like, oh, this is a cool story, let me write about it, but it doesn't necessarily connect back to the main story. So for example, Wanda, you could see like where she would go like, oh, that's interesting, what is Wanda's story? Or Irina, what is Irina's story as, you know, the betrothed with this magic gold stuff? And she's like, well, now I need to bring in a demon. And it's like, it's a thing, it's scope creep. And it's like Spinning Silver becomes more of an exploration of several characters she finds interesting, and then sort of trying to twist them into one story at the end by having Stepan talk a lot about people holding each other. But like, I also just liked the less explicit magic system in this than that one. Like the only thing I really, because this one is just kind of like creepy, and again, the scope is so tight that I really enjoyed that. It moves so much faster than the novel version does. And so like, to go back to it, I really liked Irina's story in Spinning Silver, but like I would have liked that as its own story. I don't really necessarily need that with Miriam's story.
The more I think about it, for me, it just works as an ensemble story, and I enjoy. I love Spinning Silver. I get it. I do, guys. I get it. Nom nom, bitch. Nom nom.
But it's the same. So what I would say is it's the same as really liking a fan fiction that's messy and like 200,000 words, but it doesn't mean it's a crafted, like it's the most craftful version of the piece. One thing in particular I really wanted to agree with Will that was saying before, I think, is I really liked how fast-paced this one was. And also, can we just agree, like, I feel like we all agree on this. For the love of God, Miriam is such a great character. Holy shit.
One of the best.
What a, like, when I was listening to the intro, again, which is basically, Will and I will look at line by line and see how different it is. Because as I was listening to it, I was like, it's been 4 years. Like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was very similar to this at the beginning. Like, if not exactly the same. And I cannot think of any other story I've ever read that has such an impact on me as a main character in the first several pages. And her attitude, and also, you know, so there's the factor that we've talked about before, especially in ACOTAR, where it's like the poor me like thing where like everybody's super mean to the main character, and the main character is like the martyr, the scapegoat, and they're really cool and they're really skilled and they're really empathetic or amazing, but everybody just doesn't see it. And so they're just like hurt, and then somebody recognizes how hurt they've been, and then they get the gratification of the recognition, and it's very irritating. It really screams to me abuse in your childhood / adulthood, and you have not been able to reconcile that in a way, and so therefore this is your way of dealing with that in your fiction. Because I did the same thing. I did exactly the same thing. I've read other people who've had abuse in their life, and it's the same thing. It's people like, and whether or not you actually have those things in your life, it screams to me of that. It's because it's a gratification thing. It's not really I'm telling a really good story thing that makes sense and has support. And so it's really awesome. And I'm getting to the point that Miriam's parents don't blame her for being the way she is. Miriam's parents mourn it, and her mother blames her father, and that's gratifying in its own way. And I just really appreciated that in this, like the intro to the story and everything, and as we're reading it, and it really made Miriam super lovable despite how apparently hard. And I think Novik does a really good job of balancing Miriam being a cold stone heart bitch with her being able to be empathized with by the reader.
Yep. And the other thing is, the novel and this book it is what all writers should aspire to do with first person narration.
Oh God,
the narration, you know who Miriam is before she's told you shit about herself. It is her voice.
Word choice.
First person should be used in a way where the character's voice is seeping. This is how they talk. This is how they tell a story. It is not just your narration told with an I instead of a she type of thing.
Yes, thank you.
It's also a thing because when you read Spinning Silver, one of my favorite parts of it is Wanda. The way Wanda says her stuff from in first person is different. So is Irina's. It's all different from each other. Those three point of views are so distinct. And even, I know we hate Stepan. Stepan's narration sounds like a child. He has his own distinct voice. And Novik doesn't always do first person. She uses it when the characters need it. Like when it is applicable to the story she's telling. She knows when to use third person. And it is just a masterclass. It is a masterclass in how to do first person.
I always said Wanda in Spinning Silver sounds like, because she's poor, she uses her words very much like, I don't want to give away this thing, so I'm very sparing with it. Like she's spending coins she doesn't want to when she speaks.
Yeah.
Going back to Miriam as a character, I think the thing about it is that she's a wonderful character because, and she almost, it's almost more a testament to how good Novik is that in this story, which is a short story, you get such a strong sense of her character very quickly. It's useful in the novel, but you really understand how quickly she does it here in the short story. Because the thing is that Miriam is very active in a way that most characters aren't active. She really takes control of her life. And it's also controllable in a way that's believable because, like, my contrarian sense didn't prick at her being like, those people are going to give us our money back. You know, it's not just like, oh, the evil empire showed up and was a dick. Like, there's a real sense of like, no, these people are wronging her, and it feels good when she's like, no, pay us up. Like, that's what's up. But she's very resourceful later. She does
it realistically too, Will. Like, you know, when she's like, oh, you don't have the money now? Okay, part of it now, I'll come back next week. And that feels realistic, right?
Yes. To me, I was a bit like, maybe you're Jewish. Maybe you should chill a little bit on telling the Goyim to pay you now. And I was like, I don't know how realistic it is to necessarily break these social norms.
Fair enough.
But like, I'm sure, it's fine enough. And it's one of these things where it's like, she's very intelligent. She's very active in how she works. And she, right from the beginning, you feel that nuance of loving her parents despite them being weak. And her parents not necessarily being bad people, which is explored more in the novel, which I do think is a place.
You know the line where she. Sorry, finish that real quick again.
No, go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
No, I just said a place to take it.
Yeah. All I was gonna say is you're right. You know the one line in particular where she is like, "I wanted my grandmother to see my mother in furs and blah 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 blah." That's so parentalized. Like that is her speaking like a parent of her mother.
it works great. And I think the one thing is that the ending does feel a bit like, oh, we should have, to make this into a longer story, you do need her turning the room into gold, because it's like, otherwise why are you telling us the story at the beginning? Like, you didn't get to that part. And one thing I do like about the novel is the exploration of the fairies living in the literal world, where the metaphor is literal, which just isn't really here that much. But again, I just like focused stories, and this is so focused and good.
This scope is excellent here. I would argue that it is the best scoped out story in this collection. I still love the novel, bitches. I feel a reread in my bones. Next.
Commonplaces, the Sherlock Holmes fanfiction.
Oh God, I hated this.
I hated this one.
I did not like it. I did not like it.
Okay, here's the thing, guys.
Oh my God.
It's very well written.
Yeah.
It's a good story if you don't know that Holmes is asexual canonically. And so story...
Did it not hella read as fan fiction for either the show or movie? Because I cannot picture Holmes being like, yes, I have a secret romance for Watson, but I can't settle down at all. And so therefore, Irene, let's have one less sexual scandal together. Yeah, like that.
And also, can I tell you what a terrible motivation it is to say that Sherlock fucking Holmes was so sad that Watson got married that
he's like, I'm dead, bitch. I'm never gonna come back.
He'll only come back once Watson's not married and
Mary's dead.
And it feels like such a betrayal of like the actual friendship that these two had. And I hated it. And I hated that. Okay, if you were gonna go the Sherlock is in love with Watson, right? Why, like, and now he's also bi. Like, why did they have to have sex? The thing that I love about that story is how Sherlock as a character often just discounted women. They background, not movers and players, background, and Irene was like, ha, bitch, and he respected the shit out of her. And it's not to say that you can't respect someone and sleep with them, but like, they had a one-night stand that neither of them felt great about afterwards. Like, the vibe afterwards was not like...
Well, here's the other problem. You know, in her preface, Novik says that she really liked the story of Irene Adler, but she felt like the character wasn't quite done right by the author. It wasn't done in full justice. And that's kind of the point, is that Irene Adler exists in her own story separate from Sherlock, and it makes her stronger that she isn't actually that interested in him. They hit for a minute, and then she goes off and does her own thing because she's an agent in her own right and has agency. And this makes her a little bit more like...
I was simp.
Like, it's...
Yeah.
And
she's like, I didn't eat for months on end because I couldn't stand the love of my life, who I will not be with, is because I'm with somebody else and they're the love of my life. Like, it made it actually feel more wishy-washy.
And also, it just... Well, no, the reason she didn't eat for months on end was she had...
I missed that part.
You're
that was one of the audiobook times I listened to this.
But anyway, the other thing is, if you're going to tell me, because like when she was like, I wanted to see Irene Adler in her full, I was like, oh, an Irene Adler story?
I thought it was going to just be Irene Adler.
I was like, yes, show me her like doing something crazy. Like her and her husband go on vacation and she cons a bunch of people out of money. And then she's like, babe, look, I found all of this under the pillow. And he's like, wow, what good fortune. You're like, give me something cool like that. And no, we just got Irene and Sherlock and her finding
this felt like an excuse to shove in gay Sherlock / bisexual Sherlock. I should say bisexual Sherlock into the mix. I was like, bruh, like as soon as he, like, I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going to just be straight Sherlock, like fan fiction, not like televised. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the thing, is this feels like fanfic of the show, not fanfic of the actual original work.
Yeah.
And Maria has read all of the Sherlock Holmes canon, and so we've kind of gotten some by it. And again, it's like, canonically, this is not how Holmes acts, and also canonically, Holmes is asexual. Like, this is ace erasure.
It really struck me specifically of movie like Robert Downey Jr. for some reason. I think it's because of the music thing. I don't know why, but for some reason, it really struck me for that in particular, as opposed to, and like the brief personality we get from Sherlock in this is like, I don't know why, but I just like really felt it was like Robert Downey Jr. vibes. And I was just like, man, like, this doesn't really feel like what you premised this with. I feel cheated.
And it's just, and I honestly didn't find Irene had a lot of personality.
She's like cardboard.
When you, especially coming after Spinning Silver, all of the intense personality, understanding, and zhuzh that Miriam had, Irene is just like, I'm smart and I know it, and my husband doesn't. Like, whatever you do, this was one of the other ones. So this and Araminta make me angry.
They're on the same level.
Hate this story so much.
Okay,
let's continue.
I actually don't think they're on the same level. I think this is a perfectly functional story that works
that's
well.
fair. That's
I just think it's fan fiction in conversation with the original work, and if you know anything about the original work, it's a bad conversation.
Yeah,
it is like it is just not. It's not good. Yes.
Next
okay. What's the next one?
7, and it is my second favorite.
Yeah, this is my second favorite.
Love this one.
It's my seventh favorite.
But not because of the story and plot. I loved it because of the complexities and the there's 2 reasons why I love this before we go into it, just so you guys understand where I'm coming from. Number 1, this felt kind of like again, I said at the beginning it felt like a fan fiction of something, but the point is that this the male main character that you get a lot of this from is very Count Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I like vibed with that in a weird way. And the second thing is that the world in which they live is so fucking strange, weird, depressing, and bizarro that I loved the world, and I loved the one character and the strange ass romance that was not a romance. But besides that, yeah, I can understand why Will and Maria does not like this.
You give your thoughts first.
So part of my problem is I liked the world building. I liked the idea because she really does specific trade stuff.
Yeah.
I like how we've completely given up on giving premises. We didn't do it for
no, but it's an anthology.
So the premise of this one is you have this world called Seven, like this town, this city called Seven.
But there's not 7 of anything. It's like random numbers. So they're like, where does the 7 name come from? Which is a really interesting concept.
And there are these 7 statues that were built in honor of the name, but they're all facing this one direction, and the wind blows through them and they sing. So there are these 7 singing statues made out of this specific white clay that like all of the master clay people are like, ooh, and if you start working the clay, you get so obsessed with it, you work and then you die.
Well, not just that. It's not that necessarily you become obsessed with it. It sounds like cancer. Like, it specifically seems like once you work with it, you're cursed in some way.
Ambiguous. It sounds like it's ambiguous.
Yes,
There's
correct.
a specific line where it says, even after they finish,
they continued working with it and so on. Fair enough.
The white clay.
Because it was probably so artistic or something. But the point is like, there's also like this weird backdrop that never gets elaborated on. I just want to mention now because otherwise I'll forget and I don't think it'll come up again. Is that it states that when 1 statue sings, that's pretty norm. When 2 statues sings, that's like, oh, interesting. And then when more than 2 statues sing, meaning the wind is that hard, that usually means it's a horrible fucking storm coming, and never has all statues sing. So that's what like made me think of like a video game that I came across once where there were statues that did sing and it did indicate the environmental efforts in the video game. So I was like, wait, is that, I just can't think of the name of the video game. And I was just like, is this like a video game like fan fiction? Because it feels that shallow in some regard. But anyway.
Yeah, and so what happens is that they get to only pick one master builder when there's a crack in one of the statues. And this allows Novik to do her favorite trope, which is men take a field very seriously, semicolon, woman shows up who is practical and makes them all flustered. And like that is exactly what this story is, which is there is a woman who is a clay shaper who just wants to be a mom with her kids, and they're like, you should do this, and she's like, no, I don't want to. And like everyone's like, oh my god, your style is so great, you don't even try. And she's like, you fuddly men. This happens repeatedly, by the way. Yes. And the thing is, in her longer stories, I don't mind it. I actually think it's really cool to kind of recontextualize
Me too.
Domesticity as a
It comes across very strongly in this stuff.
In this one, it comes across, in this one and a few of the other ones, actually, it comes across a little bit like, okay, yeah, eye-rolly.
Oh, okay, wait. Chris M. does mention, though, and this is a fair point because that is true. It says that, no, it's because, this is talking about the clay. No, it's because it's mixed with glass and other shards, and then they get cuts and they get infected with the crap that's in the clay, because it does mention that the clay is made of human remains. So, like, there's shit, there's piss, there's decomposing pieces.
It's a little ambiguous. It's supposed to be, I think, a little ambiguous how much this is a biological thing and how much this is a curse thing.
Yeah.
And so that's more or less what happens. This woman, the other main character is a guy who fires clay, who like is very stodgy and like only art
Count
matters.
Frollo. Yes, and he's
like, it says no clay shaper who put their hands to it wanted to work with any other.
Oh, okay, there
none
you go.
of
Good
them
job.
lasted.
So it's like a curse.
There is this idea that there is something about the clay, on top of the fact that it also says a vein opened with a buried shard of glass or pottery, infections that festered, fevers that ate them. There's this whole thing.
So it has like a biological effect, but it's also cursed. And so that's the vibe it gives. And then also this gentleman, as a side note, he had like a gay lover that died to this. So he's really, really like stigmatized with it. But at the same time, he's like, yeah, bitch who I might have an interest in romantically. Why don't you just start playing with this so that way you can be, because your art style is so cool. I don't care if you die and your kids become like my foster children, which is not the case. That is not what the vibe, but...
Well, okay, so to explain it a little bit
thank you.
than that.
Yeah, I know.
One of the statues gets a crack, and everyone's like, oh, this woman has to do it. And he especially is like, oh, your art is so great. This could be the culmination of your art. And she's like, I don't want to die. I have kids I need to take care of. What are you talking about? And so he goes to like some shrine for a death god and is like, kill her. And you're like, oh, shit, that's a dark turn. And the death god's like, only life can pay for death. And he's like, okay, I guess so.
Yeah.
And they find she has cancer later, so she's like, okay, I'll do this so that I can get my kids to go to college, and save money.
Yeah, that is the vibe. But the question I have actually for both of you is, did he set the cancer upon her?
Yes, that's
what I thought was indicated, right?
Yeah, but also, Chris M, can someone pick up the last comment?
Don't know if it's really that ambiguous. Yeah.
So Chris M says, don't know if it's really that ambiguous because they tested the clay on her apprentices. None of them got sick. Actually, that never happens. They say they're going to do it. She goes to the apprentices and she says, if any of you that want to do this, make sure you don't have kids, and also don't be foolish enough to brag about this. And then her and Grovin have an argument about, because she says,
Grovin's the Count Frollo person.
Grovin's like, he's also the guy who had the gay lover.
The same person, yeah.
But anyway, Grovin's like, why would you say that? They should brag about it. This is something great. You don't care about your art. And she's like, I do, but I don't put my entire heart and self into it, you butt face. It's not my fault you don't care about anything else outside of the art. And then the book ends. We never actually get. There is no conclusion. They never go. And then her apprentices tested it for several months and none of them died or got obsessed or anything either. It ends before any of that. I know because I read it 3 times, the ending.
Oh,
Chris,
God.
Please don't cancel your membership. What you did was trigger fact check Tiger Maria.
Yeah,
we have all dealt with this.
I'm sorry.
One time at the beginning of our friendship, she was wrong about a fact, and I
have
keep
never
that as a
let
fire
me forget
in
it.
my heart.
But
because it's the only time it's happened.
Yeah, so Chris, don't take it to heart. Maria's just being very passionate. But the point is that maybe a closer, I have not read it close enough to know whichever. All I know is that I remember thinking to myself, so I didn't even care about any of that. What I focused on was their relationship because it felt very, very real. And all I kept thinking to myself was, he does not love her, but he wants to love her. Not because of her, but because, although a little bit because of her, but mostly because her art is so spectacular. And I thought I would love to see that kind of relationship explored, but maybe in the same way in a short story. It doesn't have to be long because that might be torture, for me personally anyway. And I just my heart broke in this story a little bit, and that I liked.
For me, I didn't take it as him being in love with her or wanting to love her at all. He and his folly was, and what I wanted was for him to fall in love with the kids. That's what I wanted. I wanted the moral of the story and to then mourn what he did. I wanted him to
because the kids didn't have their mother. Yes, I also wanted that.
That's what I fucking wanted.
That's
and
what
then
I
to realize
wanted.
that their mom didn't need to die, and that the clay, because I'm all for the clay was sifted.
I also really wanted that too.
And that's what, because that was the thing. That's what they set up as. Because basically, what happens is
they did set it up that way, or she set it up that way because it said that Groven started taking care of the children, and it highlights it very, very much in two particular parts where he's like, and then he babied them and he fed them this and they fed them that, and then he brought them outside to cry while she worked. And I thought, oh, this is going to end with her dying because he set the cancer upon her, not because of the clay. And she's going to die from the cancer. And then he's going to realize that he never had to do this at all in the first place. He should have trusted her from the get-go. And it did not end that way. And
not just that, but to see how she lived on in her kids.
That
and their
too.
love of her, their memory
not in the statue,
of her,
but in the kids and value
not in
life.
The statue. Exactly. That's where I thought this was going. That would have been
you and me are same
arc.
page.
Baby.
No, the thing is, this story wants to do what Buried Deep does, where it cuts the plot short, but the emotional growth is the actual arc, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't need to know if the coin stopped spinning at the end of Inception, because he has decided to embrace his children, whether the reality is real or not.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's what this wants to do, but it doesn't make sense, because again, the story is he needs to fall in love with the kids as he's doing, and then he needs to make a decision not to have her daughter become the next clay shaper, despite being very clearly very talented,
like
and having
somebody
a talent
inheriting
in
the
her
skill.
being,
Yeah.
which is like a little bit like the daughter's autistic coded, which I didn't love. But anyway, like that's kind of where this should go.
I took it that she was like 2-3 years old, and so she was
me too.
So young. She didn't.
Maybe the story mentions a lot that she doesn't talk as much as normal and just likes to sit and watch her mom. It's not specified enough, but that's where the story should go. And like, I don't know why it doesn't, because it's not even like one of the long, like, because these stories are broken up into like short and long ones. Buried Deep and Spinning Silver were two of the longer ones, and this was one of the shorter ones. So like, she has space to expand it to work as a short story and not even a full novel. So I don't know why she didn't.
I think you know what I think it is. I think it's literally a sketch dump. I think she just took what she had, and now I could be wrong. But I feel like she just took what she had and she was like, make short stories out of this, and I bet you I can, like, share. I think from her perspective, or, again, this is presuming a lot, but I think from her perspective is like, wow, this is an opportunity to share a lot of what I think is really good writing, but not good stories. And so sharing it, and then she also happens to make some extra money off of it.
I think what it is the way she writes stories is kind of just an exploration. And what happened is there were a bunch of books once she blew up and magazines that were like, please write one of the stories for our anthology. And she was like, okay. She wrote something out. It's part of a larger anthology. Fair. It gets her name on the cover. And then her publisher was like, hey, we need to publish all these. And she's like, I guess that's good for completists. And that's this book.
Yeah. The next one is another one that is very short. It's called Blessings. This is, again, a story that Terry Pratchett would have written better.
What the fuck is the point of this story?
Wait. Does it? I don't want to say anything yet. Does it remind you of another novel / movie?
It's.
I mean, it's very reminiscent of many.
Of what is it?
I mean, it's clearly a play on Sleeping
Beauty.
Oh, okay. So for me, I was like, this is her attempt at her own version of Ella Enchanted. And it very much vibed with me for Ella Enchanted. And it was strange. This is a strange story.
It's just not really even a story.
It's not. It's not. It's a
like
fairy tale /
two scenes connected
an outline.
by a semicolon.
It really is it's two seeds. It's a bunch of fairies giving a baby girl gifts, and they start giving her too many gifts, and the gifts get weird. And then you flash forward to her, how the gifts have affected her life, but you get no real depth to it. It's not like now the story actually is starting, and we're gonna get like an actual 10K words about this girl's experience with all of these gifts. Nope, she's just like, I don't want to get married.
I'm a strong butch woman. Give me the sword.
The fairy godmother's like, well, I guess you'll need a sword. And that's it. And we don't have to talk about it that long. There's a lot of other stuff. We're only halfway through the book, guys.
Yeah, there's too many of the short stories.
No, we're almost done. We're almost done. We're after blessings. Well, Lord Dunsi's teapot's not going to take up much time, let me tell you.
This was also one of the ones that I did not love.
Yeah.
It was
kind of pointless.
Hard for me to understand what was happening. Mostly because this is definitely a trench warfare story, but specifically a character study between two characters. But guys, is it just me, or is it just trying to say that tea can take you, or not just tea, I suppose, but simple pleasures can take you to heightened places?
I guess so. Your guess is as good as mine.
I mean, to say this is a character study is like, this is a character study if the study is the homework your teacher gives you because they don't have anything better for you to do. Like, it's not, like, the study doesn't reveal anything. It's just like...
No, it doesn't reveal anything. It just, the way I took it... So, okay, the very basic way I took it is that the guy that had the teapot seemingly seemed to share the magic of comfort with somebody else, and the other guy for a brief moment thought it was truly magic and then realized, oh no, it's not magic, it's just really good tea. It's because you're getting halfway decent tea / your company is what's bringing it to that height. And then that guy dies and he inherits the teapot and he has it, and so he's like, it's just tea, and then he has it and he's like, then I was transfixed by the tea and brought to a heavenly space. And I was just like, is this just trying to explain disassociation? And that was it. That was all I got.
That's already too much time we've spent on it.
All right. Next, 7 Years from Home.
What did I say? That was not going to take much time. We're almost done.
It still took like a minute.
7 Years from Home.
I almost like this, but it's too Avatar for me.
That didn't make me think of Avatar. It made me think of...
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong one.
It made me think of actually Children of Time.
You're thinking of exactly the right one.
Yeah, this is the Native American one.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
It made me think of Children of Time a little bit too, but...
Yeah, it made me think of two things. It made me think of Mass Effect and Children of Time. And I feel like that's fair. I feel like this is a vibe of Mass Effect and Children of Time in shares. And Maria, you look like you want to say something. Continue.
Yeah. So the one thing I'll give to this one is it had a different voice. It wasn't that super lyrical, like magic, and it wasn't trying to be sciencey. Funny. It is definitely, and there's a pragmaticness to the main character that like felt accurate, and but it suffers from the thing where Will and I read a story about a lady who studied dragons, but it was written by a 78-year-old version of her, and so she was telling you about
I read this too, I think.
No, you didn't.
Are you sure?
Read the fairy one.
Oh, the fairy one. Okay.
Yes. And in this one, because it was written from 78-year-old or 80-year-old her perspective, the tone of that, and it lacked the emotional hit of some of the stuff. And I think I would have enjoyed this story more if it had been, because I like the idea of this person kind of coming in, experiencing this, helping, and then eventually the native people, because it's got that sense of like our main character is from the colonizers, and they're coming to colonize, and then the native people are like, no, fuck you, we're gonna handle this ourselves, fuck off. So I like that, because that's not normally how these stories end, but it lacked the emotional oomph you need to experience some of the things that were happening in the story.
I found it to have some emotional oomph.
I did
It's
too.
more that this really badly triggered my contrarian sense. And I'm like, no, go kill the blue freaks in Avatar. Like, it kind of triggered that more than anything. I'm like, really? We're doing Native Americans are one with the land and noble again?
But see, wait.
I hate this. I hate this so much.
If I'm not mistaken, I actually thought it was a nice short story on imperialism from a science fiction standpoint. I mean, not that. I mean, it's not like it's as good as Children of Time, or as complex. I would definitely read that over this, or an extension on it. But that being said,
Ursula K. Le Guin.
I mean, I have not read as much as her stuff, so I just am ignorant of that. But that being said, one of the things that I thought was one of the most important parts that was neglected in this short story was the relationship between our main character and a child that comes up. It's an incredibly important relationship. It builds on it. It gets your heartstrings tuned for the story. Unfortunately, then she becomes more involved with the militant forces, and there's less of that child in the story, which does make sense, but unfortunately that takes away the one particular emotional relationship, or I should just say the one relationship that has emotion in it that I cared about. And so when the child, spoilers, next 10 seconds, when the child dies, I felt it, but I didn't feel it. And so I really wished, and that was more interesting to me, her learning the biological differences. And that was a fascinating the things that happen biologically here and the differences in culture due to that were really fun. And I wanted just that. I stopped once the story got to the point where she started going back to the woman with the wings that brought her to the area. Once she did that and it continued from there, I stopped caring.
So
yeah, there's a lot of and then something happened that Maria talked about. The scope is a problem. And also the character sets up that like you can't quite trust their narration and they're going to do something that was deeply misunderstood, and then it's like the most boring thing, and you're like, okay.
The other thing is to bring up Ursula K. Le Guin, because she does a thing very similar to this, where there are like the humans that you would consider like classic humans, and then so in her one story, almost all of her science fiction is written in the same universe, but taking place on different planets. But in this one guy coming from this larger, bigger, we can call it colonial force, like a larger
force,
an imperialist human, goes to a planet where these humans have been on this planet so long they have biologically evolved past normal humans, and they are now genderless, and every once in a while they have hormonal flashes where they will form into one of two genders so that they can make babies, and then they go back, and it talks about how the way they have wars and conflicts is completely different because there's a lot of things that they just don't deal with on a day-to-day basis, so their society is weird and different. And so I think Will's point of why did we have to have these super connected to nature, like, because again it brings that it once again feels like we're telling that Native American story of like the noble savage connected to nature, who we look at as like, oh, weird, sure, why are you doing that, and then we understand and we're like, oh no, they get it. So, and the reason it worked better in the Ursula K. Le Guin story is that they weren't like better at like,
well, she's doing speculative fiction, not metaphor for Native Americans, which is what this really feels like.
Yes.
And I mean, right down to like them being kind of like violent but honorable, like in their first interaction with one of the winged Native Americans is that they like kill someone because they thought like it's even down to that stereotype. And so like I was just like, no, oil company, bring in the troops, because it triggered that like that contrarianness of mine.
Yeah. And I think it almost could have worked better if it had been like more speculative fiction and about like how when separated from the rest of humanity, because this story has that idea, which is there was a group of humans who decided rather than make the planet fit to us, we will partially fit to the planet because it's cheaper to do that than to completely terraform. And like, that is awesome. How does that change human society? How does that change our interactions with each other? How does that change what it looks like on a cultural level?
That's why Children of Time is so successful. It's because, like you said, speculative. So it's exploring that concept as opposed to, whoever said that, I think it was Will, right? The metaphorical versus speculative, or was that you?
Yes.
No, it's another of my lines. Sometimes
you
have to understand that clocks don't have gears.
Don't say it. Stop. Anyway, the point is that no, that's a really good point though. It is metaphorical for sure. But anyway, so lo and behold, This story, while some people may enjoy it, is probably not as constructive and engaging as it possibly could have been.
Okay.
Hey, Maria, do you have a heart out?
No, but we have 2 stories left.
I have a heart out, which is at 12:30, so we're good.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay.
The last one is. We have 3 more stories.
Yeah. What?
Which one's
dragons? We have Dragons of Decorum, Castle Corleo, and then The Long Way Round.
Okay, we can skip Castle Corleo. It's creepy. Cool.
Wait, hold on a second.
Enjoyed that one a bit.
I enjoyed it too. I think it's one of the better ones, but like, there's nothing to talk about either it being particularly bad or deep. It's just a creepy story, and I liked it.
I have nothing to say on The Long Way Round, so I'll listen to it and provide feedback based on what you guys say. So last one's Dragons of Decorum.
Is fun.
It's fantastic. I loved every moment of it, but in the worst, like not in the worst way. It is Temeraire meets Pride and Prejudice in the absolute best way. It's every perfect part of fan fiction that I love. Success.
And it really is a fan fiction. It is a well done fan fiction. I wouldn't say it's a story in and of itself. It starts kind of a carbon copy of the Pride and Prejudice thing, and then it diverges in a way that feels.
I would have liked if thematically it engaged more with Pride and Prejudice and the idea of Darcy and Elizabeth. It was a little bit less I'm not like every girl thing that it does a little bit. And so
for me, I missed Elizabeth being a dick about Darcy, because she almost immediately is like, Wollstonecraft, why are you so upset? My girl, we don't care if people think that, like, and I was like, no, the whole point of Pride and Prejudice is Elizabeth
has prejudice.
Fuck yeah. And so we completely removed that. And I guess the idea is that an Elizabeth who went into the Corps and became a captain wouldn't have those same hangups. But I feel like she would be as judgmental. So as judgmental
for being a soft-handed man.
But no, just being part of that society, like the Corps. A
soft-handed man. That's the same thing.
As much as everyone looks at the Corps as like, oh my God, the aviators, they all look at them like, oh God, you're so obsessed with your status and what's courtly and what's
You know what I would have loved?
Ugh.
I would have loved at least one, like same exact story, but a few extra scenes / whatever. Especially during the time where she goes for Jane to take care of her in her sickness, or whatever. I would have loved a few extra like accoutrements, where there were parts where she was like, you're such a soft-handed man. Can you not lift this? And like lifts it like a whole thing. No. This is my personal fantasy. Okay, let me live it for 5 seconds aloud. I wanted her to be able to be stronger than Darcy for 5 seconds.
Katie really wants a soft boy, is what we're realizing from this and a few other things.
I would have enjoyed that, because I would have really enjoyed like her being like, no, I'm used to work, or even better, but it would not have fit in with the plot probably, is where she just like suddenly knows, like she's like cutlass, or she's like gun, and she's just like doing the thing, or something like that. But that's just like my personal fantasy. And then comboed with the fact that what Maria said, being like, you are concerned with dalliances that are only the rich of the rich that don't have to concern themselves with the safety of you. I, on the other hand, am in charge of your safety. So therefore,
but not just that, I wanted her to be equally as judgmental. Like the whole point is
that's what I mean.
Lizzie is, because what you described is a justified way to look at rich society and make sense.
Well, I think it's prejudice from her. And so then therefore we would have had to have some of his concerns and how his concerns were validated. So that's fine.
He also is not very judgmental in this. He seems to just be fine immediately.
And, like he should be judgmental that she's an aviator at first, and it should take something happening.
He should have been like, you whore, you laying with every man.
And not even that, but to just be like, oh, that's low birth, like to be, because like if you think about the scene where he's like, I'm proposing to you, but your family sucks. your sister's awful, your mother the worst. And but despite that, honey, I'd like to marry you.
Or
like, there should have been a scene where he was like, your dress slovenly, your manners crude.
Better yet, the dragon
tolerable.
No, well, that actually would have been kind of cute, actually. But also, it could have just simply been at first the dragon being like whatever, and being like, your dragon's kind of a bitch. Like, first of all, like.
What if the dragon became the replacement for how he saw her mom, where he was like, your dragon is a money
that's what I'm
hungry.
Saying. That's what I'm saying. Like how funny would that have been if he's like between your family and your dragon, like that makes me feel like there's some other part of you, like, and it's not worth marrying. Like,
yeah, no, it's totally true. There could just be more done with that, and so it's like this is like plot-wise fanfic of Pride and Prejudice, but it's not thematically. It is fanfic
definitely.
of it.
It is the Lattes and Legends version of Pride and Prejudice, where there are no stakes. There is nothing to worry about.
You know what it is? It's I've posted this on fanfiction.net.
Correct.
Fanfiction, and not
AO3.
I'm going to publish it.
AO3.
Yeah.
AO3, but I'm not I'm going to publish it version of the story. It's the wish fulfillment. Wouldn't it be awesome if this happened and not the let's explore?
Let's thematically do an interesting recontextualization, which is what fanfic does really good sometimes.
It's gratification.
So no, it was fine. I always like hearing dragons be kind of like
sassy.
Sassy, yeah.
But also,
sassy.
I love that her dragon was like, he's got a lot of money.
Yeah. And also Pemberley is the one she falls in love with. She's like, I wonder what it's like inside. I love watching the outside.
Yeah. I thought that was a particularly cool part where she was just like, look at the gem, look at the hoard that is this beautiful home. And I was just like, oh, that's a good mix of both.
But not just that, all of the books and stuff that she had read, there was a part in the beginning where it was like fetching a rich, handsome beau was like adding to Wollstonecraft's hoard. So not even just Pemberley, but she was like, go to the ball, get a rich guy to fall in love with you. You know, like, it makes sense for a dragon to be that, like, because it really, Wollstonecraft becomes kind of a bit of a fill-in for her mom.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because Wollstonecraft's a dragon. She likes money. She likes collecting people and precious things, baby.
How funny would it have been if at some point he had addressed her and been like, so I need to address what I think is obvious, which is, do you have any feelings for me? Or is this just you seeking out more hoard money for your dragon?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many funny things that could have been done with there, but I think part of it is the story is too short to really have conflict.
Yes.
Like, the thing with Pride and Prejudice is that, like, that moment where he insults her in the rain under the gazebo, I have only watched the movies, that happens that conflict happens too early, too late in the story for it to fit into the format of a short story. Like, all that would have to be condensed, and I don't think she really could do that. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I would have liked to see even something like, and even just like she took a small portion from Pride and Prejudice to turn into this story, but you already know the other parts that have happened, you know, like something like that could have maybe worked
that
better.
would have been nice.
Okay, long way round.
You guys go for it, I'll listen.
This is not published anywhere else. This is one of the only ones where she did not publish this somewhere else, I believe. Yeah, it's just...
Wait, is it good?
It is her, so she makes a point at the start of this story. She makes a point at the start of this story saying that how she develops worlds is she imagines the stories that happens within them, and this is going to be whatever this turns into will be her next novel probably, and this is kind of the teaser for that. Will.
She's a very strong writer. She's very good with characters. She's very good with prose.
Okay, we all know this. What's the story about? Tell me.
And this, I felt like, was kind of a nothing burger. The story is about two characters, a brother and a sister, who like to build ships. Brother is autistic coded. And it's like, he keeps asking her, like, why don't we do these crazy things? And she's like, I don't want to, but then she does them. And this is, let's go. He's like, why don't we just go around the world to get to the trading port instead of across the Mediterranean analog? And their home is like managed, or their kings are like mages who can do mind magic. And one of them is like, "Ooh, I want to come with you." And the brother's like, "Oh, you're hot." But then when the mind mage actually has to figure out something with their brains, it kind of makes it so that he starts picking up some of the brother's behaviors, and then they find a big island. And that's most of what I remember about it. Maria,
fascinating.
What happens?
So it does. Chris M says it meanders like crazy. Quills Knowing says, I feel like the brother's point of view would have been more interesting. I don't know about. I definitely meanders like crazy. I don't know if the brother's point of view would have been any more interesting. The part I liked was building the ship. So again, Novik does interesting things with trade, craft, mechanics, and understanding the way a world works. This world feels not only like ocean goey, but with like a little extra, almost techno magic kind of vibe to it. That was really interesting in the beginning, and the idea of what
she says in the beginning.
Yeah, and I was kind of on board, and then when they introduced like the High Lord, I was like, I don't understand where we're going. And now we've got a romance subplot that has been thrown in that you don't, because you're not in the point of view of either of those characters, means nothing to you outside of the way. The one thing it does is there is and we're told this in a novel, this will work. There is a conflict between the two main characters, Tess and her brother. And it's because she has chosen supporting him because he was her younger brother. Their father died, and she has done everything. Like, there was a point where she could have gone off, got married, had kids, which is something that she doesn't not want, but she has chosen to live the life that her and her brother wanted to do. And there's this point where he is actively almost making a choice to be like, well, if this happens, I'm just going to go with that guy. And, good luck. And she's like, oh, you get to, and she's a bit upset about that, like, he would kind of abandon because he's in love with this other person, and leave her, and that also he gets to make the choice that she, in a different situation, might have liked to make that choice as well. And there's this point at the end where it wants it to tell you that, oh, actually, he wants her as part of it, and he's choosing her, and she can, like, she's part of the thing, and and it doesn't work because he is once again making all the decisions and that she's going to have to agree to, and so he hasn't learned his, like, and again, it's a short story, so he's not going to, this is, I think, I felt like this was more, here are characters I'm interested in, and I'm going to throw them in a situation and see how it plays out, more than it is trying to actually make an arc, because I think the arc is going to be her getting to the point where she can have more agency, decision, and having her brother actually say to her, what do you want to do, sis? Kind of thing, or like, what is your choice? Or her get to the point, be like, I want to do for me. You found something for yourself. I want to find something for me separate of this, kind of thing. But and so you get the kernels of that, and it's like here, but it's not going to be explored because this is a test world. This is a sandbox story. That's what it is. Yeah. It's a sandbox. She's playing in a sandbox.
And like, it's okay, but I just stopped paying attention by the end. Once I knew what the sandbox was, I was like, oh, okay. I don't really care.
And I had no interest because they just sail around this one weird continent they find out of nowhere that nobody else knows about and is on no maps, and it has all these weird things that they call follies on it, and you're like, wow, why are those there? And there's a revelation that the one guy's father did this thing years ago, and they're doing this thing, and like, what's the resolution with that? I don't know.
It also feels like a little bit too... Like, you could read the Spinning Silver short story and go, oh, I could see how this could be expanded into a novel with really interesting characters. And this one feels like, oh, this could be expanded into a novel where you explore the world building more, but that's kind of it. Like, it's not as good an acorn of a story as Spinning Silver is. And so, like, I'm actually a little bit dispirited because I don't want this to be your next work. I wanted something really good.
Does that mean that you would say then, Will, that the characters are uninteresting?
They're fine. Again, she's really good at writing characters.
No,
they all
but
feel
in general,
vivid.
they're
Some of the stuff with the High Lord is funny, too, once he gets, like, mind drunk.
Yeah. So you would say that you have no interest in them being elaborated upon, though.
Right. And also, I don't really care about the world. It just feels very generic second world fantasy.
So it seems like the world's the bigger issue.
Well, no, they're both issues. I just don't, but none of this really spoke to me particularly.
Yeah, he isn't, like, his palette, if this is supposed to be an amuse-bouche to whet the palate for a bigger, delicious meal.
It's not doing it.
His palate is not wetted.
Okay, got it.
He's gone. That's enough. I'll go somewhere else. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I
please
hope
don't
she
make this a
watches
trilogy.
this
Make it a standalone.
I hope she gets some feedback from somebody for that then, so that way hopefully it doesn't become, because I would agree with you both, or at least with, I think Will explicitly stated it, but I'm assuming Maria agrees, that I mean, I'm not really that engaged with what you just told me. Like, it just seems kind of like, nah.
Yeah,
like,
it's fine. I mean, the thing is, she's a very talented writer. She might be able to make it work.
You want to know the best part about this? What's his face's wife? I liked her. I wanted her story.
I thought she was going to be in it more, because Novik actually does that sometimes.
The younger brother, so the idea is the older sister is an excellent navigator. Younger brother is a shipbuilder. He's got really good ideas. He can make ships really well. He's very particular about how he
can make ship happens.
Yeah, he can make ship happens. And so they can get a dock where they can build a big enough ship, because they want to build a trading ship, like no longer small ones. And to do that, he has to marry this one dude's niece so that they now have access to this dock and they're part of this larger shipping family. And this character, like the younger brother, whose name Aston, I don't know. Aston, he marries this girl who is rich. She's been part of the elite her whole life. She's a bit snooty, but basically when they got married, they both agreed, I'm doing this to get access to that. And she's like, I want a kid and want to be taken care of in the way that I would like to be. So outside of that, I don't care what you do. So then Aston goes and has the affair with the High Lord Sorcerer Boy. And there's a point where the Tess and her brother are talking about it, and she's like, you're married. And he was like, what's her face won't care. But like this character, there's this moment where Tess has to go have dinner with this High Lord, and she's literally putting Tess in her wedding clothes, because she's like, you gotta look good, because if you look
so
pretty enough, maybe
character.
he won't. And she's interesting. I'm like, I want to know what's happening in her head. I want to see this dynamic where she's like, fuck yeah, let my
Novik,
husband,
listen to this.
Yeah. Let my husband have, like, screw the rest. I want her to be the main character, because she's got an interesting, making the decision that, yes, actually, I do want my husband to have an affair with the High Lord, because then he'll put us up in a big house on the main street, but also care and have investment, and seeing her, like, ice crumble, like, she was.
And also, it would be a more interesting story from her point of view to see the dynamic between the brother and the sister and the High Lord. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just a more interesting story if she's in it, and so.
Yep.
And so that's the book. I think if you're a Novik completist, I think it's worth it. I think several of the longer stories are worth it to read. But I just don't, again, it's an expectation thing. This is kind of an idea dump. And if you take it that way, you're like, okay, that's what it is. But don't really expect a unified experience or even some of these stories to be particularly good.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Any last thoughts?
Nope. It was a good time. I'm glad to be back, baby.
Yes, she's back for a while, guys. Okay. All right. We will talk to you all later then.
Bye.